Welcome to the Halaba Fantasy Football League. This is week 6 recap. A little bit of allergies, so my drink today is just honey, lemon, and hot water. Soothes the itchiness in my throat from whatever is in the air. We had an interesting week. Very funky scores. Starting off with the Thursday night games. I don't know. Have we had a good Thursday night game? They all seem like really, really bad. I don't know what the NFL can do to fix it, but in their attempt to make a lot of money, they add another primetime game on a Thursday night. It's a short week of preparation, and we get a really bad product week after week. It didn't even look like an NFL game. Like the uniforms they were wearing, I was like, it looked like Clemson versus Virginia Tech. I don't know what was going on. It was the Bears versus Carson Wentz and the Commanders. They had some good plays, but it wasn't very interesting. Overall, the whole week actually had a lot of low scores in terms of like fantasy. So these are some of the lowest scoring outputs of the season. And we even had like a kind of like a crazy weekend, right? We had all these funky games, like the Falcons over the Niners, 28-14. Steelers over the Bucks, 20-18. Jets over the Packers, Giants over the Ravens. A lot of upsets. And yeah, and then a lot of the reflections of how the way teams are adjusting, how they have injuries, how new players are popping in, have affected like fantasy outputs for sure. Some of the other interesting things was the Sunday night football game between Dallas and Philadelphia. I think we can kind of put to rest the idea that Cooper Rush is there for a quarterback controversy. Kind of faced a really, really strong defense, and Philly continues its dominance as the only undefeated team. I don't know if they're the best team, but they are maybe the best in the NFC for sure. Who could be the best team is the Bills, as they actually knocked out Kansas City. That was a pretty solid game too. And then Monday Night Football was interesting. Another interesting game too. It was weird because like there's so much drama with Denver and Russell Wilson and everything that's going on with him. But they were mirror images of each other. It wasn't like Justin Herbert was doing any good too, but they were just kept piling on the Broncos. Eventually the Chargers won on a crazy play. Nobody wanted to win. They wanted overtime because they recovered a fumble off of a punt that put them in field goal range, and their kicker, who was all injured, was able to kick the game winner. And that was funny because it did affect one important game this week. So anyways, let's just get to the recaps. Take a sip of this. So the first game, speaking of Rusty Wilson versus Mediocre Minions, Brad versus Jeremy. This is a little bit of a blowout. It started out well with Russell Wilson. He went 10 for 10, scored a touchdown to Dulcich. And then the second half, it wasn't the same. It was just like a defensive struggle and kickers. That's what that game turned into. And it's so cool how I love it when they have these head-to-heads. Like you had Monday Night Football, Russell Wilson versus Justin Herbert, Brad versus Jeremy. Too bad the game wasn't as close as it was for there, because Brad is continuing to try to figure out what he can do with his team. McKenzie only gave him 2.94. Duvernay only 2.38. Mixon is his best player outside of Wilson, 15.6. Justin Wilson, 2.2. Again, that was one of the results of the upset of San Francisco by Atlanta, and then you can see how it affected Wilson. Njoku, pretty good, 7.3, even though he was expected to make more. Anytime I see over 5 points for a tight end, I'm like, congrats, you did a great job. Myers, 8. McPherson 8.7, Philadelphia D 7.3. He benched Najee Harris 13.3, which is actually a pretty good game for him. And Rondell Moore is actually looking like a good player. So even though he underscored, I think what's happening in Arizona may affect Moore's usage in the future. So I think you're kind of setting yourself up for some future success, especially when you have like rookies like this, like Pierce. Pierce is a legit rookie wide receiver in addition to everyone else. So, beginning of the year they start out slow, they pick it up later. He could be kind of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of deal. Who knows? But that's why you kind of like roll the dice on rookies sometimes. And then for Jeremy, he had a bounce back game after his weak game last week. Even though Herbert only had 13.32, Stephon Diggs is now wide receiver 1. Pittman also bounced back game. This is another strong game from Indianapolis. Singletary 14.4, pretty good. Actually, really good for him. Pacheco 4.72, good pickup with Tanya. And I saw he picked him up in the week, and then he got 14 points, even though Green Bay lost. Suckup, a really strong kicking game, 15.5, and the Chargers D from tonight 8.1. So it had a chance to be an interesting head-to-head game, but this game was over before it started. All right, so next game, let's take a look at Brownsville Jets versus Dandy Daddy Melch team. So Mike, typically a strong team. He had a down week this week. Lamar Jackson, 20.5. Deebo Samuel, 12.7. Kind of pedestrian for him. Marquise Brown, I think, got hurt. So down to 9.3. So that's where we're going to have a little bit of a change in what's happening with Arizona. Eckler continues to run hard and strong. So he's 20.7. So I think he's rallying to get up there in the top running back rankings. He looks really, really good. Kareem Hunt only 1.6. Higbee only 1.2. J.K. Dobbins only 2.2. Cleveland D only 0.8. That's kind of the downfall, these 4 players. But a really strong kicking game by McManus from Denver. Again, tonight's Monday night game was all kicking and defense. Robinson had kind of a bounce back game, 14.8. And Herbert is 8.2. Yeah, I don't know what you're going to do with that. He has some carries, 7 rushing attempts and 75 yards. That's pretty decent. But I think it's like a seesaw with those Chicago running backs. I don't know who's going to dominate. Gary had a good, strong game, enough to beat Mike. Kirk Cousins had 18.7. But your better quarterback was Trevor Lawrence on the bench, who had 27.5, bolstered by the 2 rushing touchdowns. Gabe Davis, 14.9. I think a little bit of a bounce back game for him. DJ Moore from Carolina, only 2.2. Carolina looks like it's going to be a fantasy black hole. I don't know. Maybe he'll get more catches now because of what happened with Anderson. I think Anderson got kicked out of the game. They have a new coach because their coach was fired. A lot of they're shopping Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know. They're gonna tank for better picks. I don't know. Who knows. DJ Moore, anybody basically in Carolina, it's going to be really tough outside of Christian McCaffrey. And then the pair of Green Bay running backs who take carries from each other, 6.8, 8.2. At least you get all the Green Bay points. Mark Andrews is tight end 1 or 2, outstanding. And then Ramondre Stevenson had a huge game, 25. So kind of crazy how New England is like, ever since Mac Jones went down, they've had guys that have been putting up points. Greg Joseph only 4.9, Tampa D only 4. And anything else on your bench? You had guys out. I think, like we said, we have some buys going on, but enough for Gary to get the win. and you caught Mike B on a down day, so you're able to get to 500. Okay, Blitz and Ritz versus Mike Lillepao. So Richie also gets a win and gets to go knock down one of the one loss teams. Kyler Murray 20.18. Jamar Chase had a huge game, 28.7. Chris Godwin, pretty decent, 12.5. Alvin Kamara, back and better than ever, 17.3. Montgomery, here's the other seesaw running back, 10 points with Chicago. Everett tonight had 5.4. Eno Benjamin had 9.5. Maher only 5.5. Dallas D only 4.6. Your bench, you had Christian Kirk 9.9. Etienne 12.8. I think you may, depending on who you have in your running game, maybe you consider, because it looks like now that like we were roasting Jaguars last week, but they still have talent, and I think Etienne is going to be the one who's going to be the feature back for them going forward sooner or later. So I don't know. You might be able to ride him in the second half. Pierce was off this game. I mean, they were on a bye. James Conner, don't have him. Warren, you decided to pick up Warren from Pittsburgh as a handcuff, I guess, to Najee Harris, and this just so happened that Najee Harris actually did good, so he only got you 0.4 points. I'm going to talk about that later, about like some of the running backs, because I was kind of shopping for some too, and he was one that I was considering. But I don't know. Like I said, it was a weird week. Pittsburgh came out of nowhere and beat Tampa Bay, and I'm like, what is going on? And these scores get all funky because of it. For Mike, Jalen Hurts was down to 19.3. They really didn't need him to get this win. Mike Williams tonight, only 2.7. Curtis Samuel, a sad 1.6. James Robinson, like I said, Etienne, I think going forward might be the veteran. He had 12 rushing attempts. Etienne had 10 rushing attempts. I think that's going to eventually switch over. Fournette continues to be strong, 21.2. Kelsey, solid game, 15.3. MVS had a donut. I don't know if he got hurt or something. Butker is back, and he gave you 13.6. But he wasn't your best kicker because Myers had 16.2 on your bench. And Green Bay D, only 2.9. You should have played Minnesota. They had 14.3. Should have played Jeremy Garoppolo. I don't know if this is enough for you to overtake Richie. So congrats to Richie on this one. All right. Next up, let's go to Mia Milo versus the Whipping Boy. Entering Monday night, I thought this was interesting because we had a head-to-head with... Actually, no, not Monday night. It was Sunday night. It was a head-to-head with... Who was it? What was the difference? What was going to be the difference maker? I gotta look again. Just 1 second. Oh, Dallas. It was the Dallas versus the Philly game, right? I had Pollard. And Aaron had Dallas Goedert. And had Pollard rallied, maybe I could have made a game of it, but that wasn't the case. Ezekiel Elliott was the top back this time around, even though they too have been sharing carries. And that was not enough for me to catch Aaron. And then Aaron had Dallas Goedert, who gave him 3.2 points to add a little bit of a cushion. Sealed the win Sunday night. So Aaron wins comfortably. As far as his teams, what they did, Pat Mahomes had a good game, 24.52. Justin Jefferson, decent, 13.7. Tyler Boyd, 9.6, but he's capable of much more. Targets are there, so that's good. Saquon Barkley continues to be consistent and strong, 19.2. CEH, only 4.2. We talked about Goddard. Russell Gage, 3. Bass had 7.4, and the Buffalo D had 8.6. On your bench, Geno Smith had 15.28. Kind of a down game. So like we said, I think we're going to get to, we'll mention it later, but there's a reason why I think he went down a little bit. T. Higgins only had 7.7, Devontae Parker 8.4, Zay Jones 6.7. And then for me, I had a heavy bye week. Yeah, so look at all these zeros. I think Detroit was not playing, and well, Dalton Schultz was, even though he was considered healthy, he didn't play. So that's going to be something interesting too that I got to mention in another round. Even though they're considered healthy and they're coming back, they're never going to be 100%. They'll say they're healthy and play them and say they're 50%, and that's how they're going to perform. They're 50-50 when they come back. They're still working to get healthy even though they're off the injury report. For me, I had to play Stafford because Goff was out. I hate my quarterbacks. 15.62. And this is really what did me in, was my receiver play. Metcalf only had 4.4 and Pickens only had 4.4. That really hurts because they had been like solid performers for me the past 2-3 weeks, and I was relying on them. Pollard too. Baltimore D only 6.8, Matt Gay 5.6. Rams offense isn't looking so hot right now. Brees Hall, super happy about him. He's the one positive that I can have. Like I said, I think he's a future back, and then he's proving me. I took him in the 3rd round, so some people might have thought it's high. It's kind of like validation, even though the rest of my team is stinky and injured. But that's my strategy, is I'm trying to play for the second half. And Jelani Woods, I was wrestling with this because I was thinking about picking up the Jacksonville tight end. I was like, let me just stick with this rookie. He's like 6'7" and crazy athletic. They just have to like lob it in the air in the end zone. And he finally got a touchdown after that 2-touchdown game earlier in the year. So that's a little bit validating, especially when I was considering playing Dalton Schultz. So glad that didn't happen, even though I lost. But congrats to Aaron. Good job. All right, who else we got? We had a close one. This is the closest game. Prince Lama versus Darren. Yeah, this one went down to the wire. Let's see. Joe Burrow, really good game, 35.7. Waddle, pretty good game too, 14.9, even with the lesser quarterbacks. Deontay Johnson only had 6.3. Dalvin Cook, a good 16.8. Nick Chubb, down game, 8.7. Tyreek Hill, Taysom Hill, 5.24. That's a boomer bust with him. Miles Sanders, I think he was the one who had most of the points for Philly, and they didn't need much, and so they were able to coast and ride the coattails of Miles Sanders, 15.5. Younghae Koo only had 4. Chicago had 7.5. On Eric's bench, Kyle Pitts had 9.4, outplaying Taysom Hill. Lazard had 15.6, a good game. Devontae Smith had a good game, 12.9. White from Tampa Bay had only 6.36. Aaron Rodgers only 15.54. So it looks like Eric had a chance to win this game had he shuffled these guys around. Like Johnson, maybe for Lazard. Maybe you take this flex position. Where's your flex? Miles Sanders, you put him in one of these better running back slots. I don't know. Maybe not. That's hard. But yeah, he definitely had a chance to win. Matt Ryan, who knew? 31.46, keeping pace with Joe Burrow. Cooper Kupp, kind of a little bit of a down game for him, 13.4, so he slips down to wide receiver 2. Mike Evans, only 6.2. Again, part of the upset of Tampa Bay. Zeke Elliott was the better Dallas running back today, 16.4, or this week. Mostert only 7.7. Irv Smith 8.7 in the tight end spot, which is decent. Amari Cooper, a good game, 12.4. Justin Tucker, 8.7. And the LA Rams, 11.7 for them. On his bench, he had some pretty strong games from Juju Smith-Schuster and Chris Claypool, both right around the 20-point mark. And Claypool right at the 20-point mark. And so they kind of took away points from Deontay Johnson, took away points from George Pickens for me, and took away points from Warren for 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 Richie. But it was enough for Darren to get the win and hand Eric his first loss of the season. So good job, Darren. The last one. Captain Morris versus James Swag team. This was going to be an interesting game. And it looked like Morgan had a chance tonight because they had a head-to-head thing going on. They had Melvin Gordon running back for versus Hopkins, Chargers kicker. The score was very, very close. And if you're going to compare the kicker to Melvin Gordon, who was the number one running back ever since, what's his name, got hurt, Javonte Williams, it looked like Morgan was going to have his chance for his first win of the season. And on top of that, Hopkins hurt himself on an extra point kick. And he was like, slower. But even with that, he kicked all those field goals, including the game winner tonight, and had 17.2 points. So, completely crushed Morgan's dreams of having his first win of the season. So sorry. Sorry, Morgan. Yeah, and then because of the margin of error, it looks like you may not have even had a chance to do anything. Even with Jonathan Taylor giving you a donut, like if you had subbed in Darrell Henderson, 15.67, that's still not enough. That's still not enough. But anyways, Josh Allen continues to be QB1, 31.26. I think he's QB1. A.J. Brown had a good game, 15.2. Thielen, decent, 13.6. Melvin Gordon. So we're going to talk about these Denver running backs and some of these other running backs too. 1.1. Jonathan Taylor, and this is what I was saying. This happened to me with like Amon-Ra St. Brown and some of the other ones. Like when they say they're practicing in the week and they were injured prior, that does not mean that they're 100%. And exactly happened with Taylor. And it does hurt. I mean, eventually he's going to come back. He's RB1 when healthy. Ertz had a decent game, 10.5. Kenneth Walker, your best move, 20.1. I feel like you heeded my advice last week because he's exactly who I was thinking of and I tried to get when I said you target the guys who's next man up when someone's injured. And speaking of, like, this is the first time I scouted like rookies in a long time. I used to do it all the time before, but this year I was super interested in it because like the Lions had 2 first-round draft picks, so I got so hyped up and started scouting everybody. Breece Hall, RB1 to me. And then you guys know I was like hyping up Dameon Pierce too. RB2 to me was Kenneth Walker. It's just he didn't have the opportunity because Penny was ahead of him. Dameon Pierce to me, RB3. Just because of how crazy he is. The only problem is with his violent running, I think he'll get a concussion or injure himself. So I don't know how consistent he'll be or his availability. But Kenneth Walker also looks like a future back. And so now he has a chance of, I think you have a chance with him, especially with some of the other guys coming back like Drake London. There's some hope for you, Morgan. Darrell Henderson is a good one too because there was news that they're going to trade Cam Akers because they're going to find him. They're going to ship him out. So that's more carries for Darrell Henderson. So there is some hope for you to turn things around. I don't know if it's enough to sneak in for a playoff spot, but there's some nice things happening for you. For James, he's another one who's like early on just like sacrificed wins for guys like Robinson, even though he didn't start him. Probably should have started him instead of Madison. He's now a running back one. I don't have him as high as Walker, Pierce, or the other ones, but I mean, if he gets the attempts, you see he has 17 rushing attempts. If he gets the volume, that's fantasy gold right there. So good for James. Tom Brady only had 16.32 for him. Tyreek Hill had a huge game, 23.62. CeeDee Lamb, pretty decent for him, 10.4. CMC, back to being a solid, like really happy for him. Saquon, guys who constantly injured who are performing. So hopefully they can keep it up. Again, Madison didn't do so good. Kittle, pretty decent, 12.3. Brandon Ayuk took all those points from what's his name? From Justin Wilson. 24.3 and whoever else there. Hopkins, that was the kicker, man. He was the MVP tonight. 17.2, crushing Morgan's dreams. Enough to withstand a 1.4 showing from San Francisco and that 0.4 from Madison. You have Sky Moore. He's a rookie. He's another one. You buy low and then maybe as they get more reps, he's another one who can be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know. It's a crapshoot. You don't know who you're going to end up with. And then Hopkins, there's another one. He is coming off injury. I mean, not injury. He's coming off a suspension. And I was trying to figure out what's wrong with Arizona. And to me, it all came crashing down last year when he was out. They were not the same team without him. So he's coming back. So hopefully that bodes well for them and the Arizona offense. And like we said, there's some changes. Marquise Hollywood Brown got hurt. So he's going to be out for a little bit. So you have Hopkins, Moore, Christian Kirk. It's going to be interesting to see if Hopkins can be that key to that offense again. Those are the recaps for the weeks. But the one things that I wanted to like kind of highlight was I was looking at, we did talk about them a little bit, but I put some stars on these guys. These were the guys I was looking at as possible running backs because Morgan already had picked up Walker at one point. And this is how it played out. Actually, this showed the week performance. That shows you how they actually performed. Week 6. For me, I ended up choosing Joshua Kelly because of his performance, and I thought his upside and talent was strong. But here's all the running backs or the situations that I thought were interesting. Deion Jackson. Why? Because Taylor is coming off injury. Naheem Hines had a concussion, and he actually showed some spark. In retrospect, should have kept him. Eric actually picked him up and dropped him, but he got 24.3 points. So hurry up and grab him if you can. If you're high on the waiver wire, especially because he's a handcuff for Taylor. It's a short-term play, I think, because once Taylor is back, then he gets relegated, but he might be like RB2, taking over Hines' place. Brightwell, it's only because of what he did the previous week, I think. And I think I'm only looking at someone like Brightwell because if Saquon happens to get injured, he's a guy who's young on the roster who I think would pick up most of the carries. But Saquon has been like bulletproof so far, so not strong. He only had 1.8 points. James Cook is a guy who I'm semi high on, but not really. He's another rookie. And the only reason why I'm interested in him is because of he's the brother of Dalvin Cook. So you hope that there's some connection there, that maybe some talent on Dalvin's level. It's there. He's on a Buffalo offense. The only issue with Buffalo's offense is it's boom or bust with everybody. Everyone takes turns except for the quarterback. Quarterback is going to get all the points, and then whoever it is at the flavor of the week is going to join him. So it's kind of tough in this, and he's like firmly behind Devin Singletary, so a little bit harder. So he's kind of like one of those future upside plays. Maybe if Singletary gets hurt, he's a young, low mileage rookie running back. Warren is the one that Richie picked up. I get it because Najee hasn't been performing so good, and he's been like his immediate backup. Kelly, who I ended up with, had no runs. It was all Sony Michelle and Eckler. And I guess it turns out he got hurt, so I guess that's what happened. And then Boone is the other one for the Denver. And this was the one that kind of messed up for Morgan because they had Javonte Williams goes down. So he's their RB1. He's down. Melvin Gordon was the number 2 all that time, but the fumbles just came to a head and then they dumped him. So I would expect Mike Boone to be the guy because he's a younger, fresher. But you know who they went with? They went with old man Murray, Latavius Murray, with all that mileage on him. So I don't know. Maybe they should have went with someone younger. Maybe they could have won the game because of that. But it shows you how it's a kind of a crapshoot to try to choose players. But I mean, these are just some of the guys that you can look at if you're trying to improve your team. This is kind of like the deeper dive. It does make free agency a little bit more interesting when you have a deeper bench like this, and things that are more shallow. And it is harder to find them, I guess. But then if you can nail them, like if you had found Deion Jackson and you played him tonight because of your research, you would have won 24.3 points. That's amazing. So I don't know. Hurry up and grab him before Taylor comes back. And then the other thing too that I am starting to appreciate about having a longer bench is we can actually go out and store handcuffs, right? With a short bench, you really don't have that luxury. You're actually trying to get guys who produce, not guys who are insurance policies. So I do like that. Maybe get a little bit of feedback from the guys at the bottom of the record board for now, because it is hard to get out of that rut. So maybe there may be a middle ground that we can have in terms of how to improve your teams, because I do kind of want parity. Anyways, that's all we got. So we'll see you later. Okay, bye.